Hey there gamers, welcome back to the Board Game Co channel, and this is a preview of Mythlords. Hey there gamers, I'm Professor Meg, and welcome back to the Board Game Co channel. Today we have a preview of Mythlords. Now please keep in mind this is a sponsored preview and everything is all prototypes and subject to change. But that being said, thank you to Destiny Horizons for sponsoring this video, and with that I'm going to jump right into what this is. So Mythlords is currently now live. You can check out their campaign link down below, but this is a game for 1 to 5 players where you are going to be playing as these different known creatures that are in these different mythological worlds. For example, this one is the classic monsters. This makes me think that they'll want to do future boxes with other types of monsters, and I actually have a small box expansion here next to me, which is the Wizard of Oz, which I'll get to at the end to explain what it would be. But that kind of gives you an idea that you are playing as these different creatures of lore that you may know, like Dracula and Frankenstein's monster, and it is a deck building game where everyone is purchasing from shared cards to visit locations, place out different influence tokens, and to battle each other for the most victory points possible. Alright, and in front of us we have a 4-player game set up for Mythlords. I do only have 3 of the different players showing. We have the Magic Grotto playing the Wicked Witch, we have Creepy Castle playing as Dracula, and the Unholy Lab playing as Frankenstein's monster. This is set up for a 4-player game based on the number of locations that are showing, but the 4th player is off screen and you can't see them. So also another thing to keep in mind, I will address it immediately, is this is a playmat. There are player boards for each of the players, but there is a playmat as well. This is the one for the Creepy Castle. So like I said in the beginning, definitely check out their campaign link to see everything that they have planned, because there are these different individual playmats for the different places as well. Now, as I noted, you have the different commanders, and they're playing within their different areas. Now, this is very accessible because you'll see that there's iconography throughout the entire game. For example, we have Dracula, and he has the little teeth symbol, and he has all of his influence tokens, his bidding marker, and his different cards all have those different symbols as well. So each of the factions come with these respective things. You can see the tokens here for the Wicked Witch and her green standees and things like that. So when you're starting the game with 1 to 5 players, there is a solo mode. You will then choose what character you want to play as, take your commander, and your corresponding location, player board, and all your little bits to play with your character. Once everyone has chosen a character and they're ready to start, you'll set up the game as follows. So you have 2 missions available, which I'll get to in a minute for why those are important. You also have the different locations that you'll be traveling to. Now, your areas are called your sanctum. So this is also a location. It is your own sanctum, the Unholy Lab, but these are other locations that you'll be able to travel to for victory points. And this is your general purchase pile, where you will be purchasing other types of things, such as vehicles, items, weapons, and minions to add to your different decks. So once everything is ready to go, players will start with 5 cards in their hand per any classic deck building games, where you will keep drawing from your deck. Anything you purchase will go to your discard pile, and once your draw pile is empty, you will shuffle that and recycle. Now, there are quite a few phases in the game for each round, but a lot of them feel very intuitive, and they're all very important for the different things that you're trying to do. So first, you'll be placing influence tokens to the different areas that you need. You'll be gaining power, gaining cards, and potentially initiating battle. So in phase 1, as I said, you will place an influence token on any locations where you have your characters, and for any missions, you will then move them over. So what does that mean? There are these 4 different locations here, and when they are completed, meaning when there are 3 influence tokens of your type on it, then you are able to claim the card, gain the victory points, and you gain an ability that it is also able to give you as well. For example, here's Dr. Frankenstein's lab, and when you get the card, you have an ability called It's Alive. On your turn, purchase a character from the river or main deck for 1 power less of its cost and add it to your sanctum or location as a free deployment. Now, this is really important because normally you'd have to play them to your discard pile and hope to get them in the future. So you do get to purchase them a little bit cheaper, but you get to put them into play immediately. Then this card would be discarded and you would gain 3 victory points. So that's where the locations can be extremely helpful, but because of that, a lot of people are going to be vying for these locations as well. So during phase 1, when you place your influence token, if I had a character here in Frankenstein's lab, then I would be able to place my influence token. If I already had 2 on there and it was the start of my turn, when I would go to place the 3rd, that's when I would be able to draw the card. But other people could be contending with me and have their own tokens as well. So you want to be sure that you're able to claim the card before anyone else gets in there and does it on you. Now, similarly, there are these missions, where if you're doing a mission, you would place your character on the first spot. You place them there, next round you would then move them over, and next round you would then move them off of the card. That's when you would be able to claim this card, but you can see that there's this little line that says opposing player. Missions can be opposed by other players, so if you were here or here, an opponent could place one down here, and then they would initiate a battle. During that battle, they could hopefully knock you out of the mission, but if you are successful, you would be able to stay. After placing influence tokens and moving on the missions, the next step is really easy. You're just drawing up to 5 cards. That's where I was talking about the standard classic deck building features. This is very intuitive, where you're doing a lot of the normal deck building, but you're actually maneuvering a lot around all these different locations, and you're trying to get victory points in different ways, which can make it really interesting. So after you draw your cards, you then generate power. Power is how you're going to be buying different cards and doing other things throughout the game. Power is very important, and power is generated in your sanctum. So all of your different characters will contribute their power to your sanctum, and there will also be cards that you can additionally play to be able to generate more as well. For example, you can see here my Frankenstein's monster has a 2 power natural innate ability. So he would be able to generate 2 power wherever he is. If he was in my, not wherever he is, but if he is in my sanctum, he would be able to generate the 2 power for me. But there are also additional cards such as these, which you're able to play to add additional power as well. So if I played both of these from my hand, I would be able to play those to gain 2 more power, giving me 5 total for this round. Now, I would have 5 to be able to purchase from here, meaning I could purchase anything except for this creature from the deep. Oh, he's actually a commander and not supposed to be in here. So we'll just pretend he wasn't, but I would be able to purchase any of these cards, and they would be added to my discard pile. After that, you'll play any cards from your hand that you would choose to. So again, those cards that you purchased go to your discard pile, but you would still have cards in your hand that you were able to play. Now, these are all actions. These are starter actions that are different things I would be able to do, such as subtracting 1 power from the cost of a vehicle in the river, meaning if there was a vehicle here for me to buy, I could make it a little bit cheaper. This would add strength to any character for a battle, but these are all just actions. So taking a look at what's here in the river for us to be able to purchase, so here's an example of other people that you would be able to add minions to your area. Here's Countess Dolligan. She's an infiltrator, and she has an ability called Succubus. All male opponents on the Countess's location are -1 strength. So that's someone that you would be able to add to your discard pile by purchasing. Eventually, when they come, you would be able to play them from your hand to put into play, and you can see here that she has a character standee. Now, there are a few limitations to when you would be able to put characters into play, but they honestly make sense. So one of them would be if you have more than 6 characters, you only get 6 standees per color, so you can only have up to 6 people out, so you wouldn't be able to place a 7th. Another time when you wouldn't be able to do this is there are specifically some named characters that are in this, and those ones you are only to have 1 champion. They're called champions. And you're only to have 1 champion in play at a time, meaning that if an opponent already has that particular named champion in play, even though you may have their card, you won't be able to put them into play until that champion is defeated off of the board. Alright, so technically phase-wise, you would generate your power, play any of your desired cards, because that's how you would add additional power, and then move on to your purchase phase when you would purchase here from the river. Now the next phase is deploy, so if you have any of your characters that you are able to place out from your sanctum, you are able to deploy them. You're able to send them over to the missions to start completing those, and you're also able to send them to these different locations. Now if it is a land location, you are always able to go there for 1, but you will need specific vehicles to carry more characters, or to be able to go to specific areas that could be water or air. You are also only able to move next door to different locations once you are out here on the locations, so that may also limit your ability to, for example, travel over water. So now with all of those things in mind, let's move on to what battle looks like, because that's really probably the most important way that you'll be getting victory points, not only by overcoming other people's characters, but also by vying for control over different locations, because you'll enter combat both when you are on locations and on missions, so that's a way to also bump people off of those areas when you are working toward those victory points. To go through battle, the first thing you'll do is initiate the battle. So you would choose a location where you are and you would declare battle, because you wouldn't be able to start 2 different battles in 2 different locations. You may need it in the future because someone might start a battle against you, but you are only able to initiate 1 battle, except if you are an opposing player for a mission, then you might trigger an additional battle. So once you do that, you would add up the strength of all of your characters, attachments, and bonuses on a location, and that would be your natural strength. So if you were fighting in a particular location, you would add up the strength of all of your characters. For example, Frankenstein is 4, and they will have different items and things like that that will add to it, such as this dynamite here, which has a 1 strength, and it adds a strength to, say, my monster for Frankenstein. Now, you also gain an additional strength if you match the location symbol. So if I was here with my Frankenstein character, I would get an additional natural strength, but if we were here in Castle Dracula, then the Dracula character would get an additional strength instead. Now, we could be fighting over here in Castle Dracula between Frankenstein's monster and the Wicked Witch, meaning no one would get a bonus, but that's what those symbols mean, to be able to give people a little bit more strength. Now, also, when you are fighting within different sanctums, because you can attack characters in their sanctums, your sanctums all have a natural 2 strength. So when you are being attacked, you have a higher defense, but it is also a lot better for you to destroy people's sanctums, because then the sanctums will start taking damage. So once you add up the natural strength, you will then be able to use any remaining power that you have to bid for additional power, strength in the battle. So for example, here I have 5 power. You're able to bid up to 6, and this is done secretly. And I would be able to bid, for example, if I thought, I can probably do it, but they're also going to bid, I'll bid a secret of 2. Now, the other player would choose what they'll bid. You'll know what their maximum is just based on how much power they have available, and then you will both reveal. After that, you're able to play different action cards to maneuver and interrupt around this to perhaps change what your final strength may be. But then after that, you determine the aftermath to see who wins the battle and who had the highest strength. After that, the winner will place an influence token on the location, and if it is your third, it will make it so that you can claim that location, and the loser would have to retreat back to their sanctum, and if their minions took damage up to their health, they would go to their discard instead. Now, as I said, you do get points for beating the other people, so for any defeated characters, you will record victory points for that. But also, for any damage that your sanctum takes, you will then be able to generate less power. So the first time that you take damage, you are then only able to generate up to 7 power, and then 5, and then 3. So the more you are getting damaged, the less power that you'll have, meaning that you are able to power up less and less things, and it is eventually a way to beat the opponent. Now, the game ends in one of 3 ways. Players are working toward victory points, so the first person to reach 20 victory points will win the game. Additionally, where I said that your sanctums get damaged, the third time someone's sanctum is destroyed, then the game would just end and whoever has the highest victory points would win. A final way to trigger the end game is for all of the locations to be drawn, and when there are no more, the game will also end, and as you guessed it, whoever has the most victory points will also win. Now, with all of this in mind and everything that you know about the game, I'll talk a little bit about this expansion. So it is the Dark Oz expansion. It's going to add a witch for you and Dorothy that you're able to play as for the different commanders, but it also adds quite a few different things. It'll add new locations for you, new action cards, new characters, and a bunch of new tokens for you to play with. Overall, Mythlords is going to feel like a very classic deck building game, but with a lot of head-to-head combat and strategy. You're going to be constantly developing your deck with what comes out in the river, as everyone will be purchasing cards, and I did fail to mention that during each turn you are able to take a power card for free from here. So if there are any single power cards here in the row, you are also able to take those, meaning that you are able to power up a little bit slower, but definitely steadier as those come out. Now, there is also a solo mode for the game. It's intended for 1 to 5 players, so even at that 1, there is this solo deck of cards for you to be able to play through. So you can play this alone, or you can play it all the way up to 5 people, meaning that this can be a deck builder with quite a lot of players at the table and a lot of player interaction, especially as you start fighting for control over these different locations and completing the missions. Overall, Mythlords is going to take a lot of these classic creatures that you know in a world that you may really enjoy, especially if you like horror, and it will make it a very snappy deck building game where you are focusing a lot on your sanctum as opposed to just your deck, but you're focusing on everything that you need to do, not only to protect yourself, but also to move out and attack others and claim these locations and missions along the way. Thank you to Destiny Horizons for sponsoring this video, and thank you all for watching the Board Game Co channel. I've been Professor Meg, and I will see you all next time. Bye!